So we're at the dawn of a new world order. There's several things that are theories of mine that I'm going to communicate to you guys that you should be aware of. It's all China's dominance. This guy's a smart guy right here. He hasn't been meeting with a world leader for a long time, but he found a strategic partner with Russia because Russia wants influence in Europe, and China is not really interested in that. It wants Africa, and it wants the Middle East. It wants natural resources. It wants Afghanistan, and so on and so forth. It has some power plays in Iran, and its interests are allied with Russia for the time being. After they collapse the United States, then they're going to sit here and turn on Russia, which is easy because he's just being played. So the Chinese are starting to lay out a new world order. All these things that we've seen, like defund the police and all this other left-wing bullshit, to me, has been implanted by the Chinese. There's no way that somebody could ever sit here and think that defunding the police and decriminalizing robberies is a good idea or is fair. I just can't understand where that came from. If that really did come from inside this country, that's a shock. But to me, with all the compromises and again the child pornography and all the other shit that's been found with the Epstein and the Clinton, I think that the left wing of this nation is deeply compromised. And it's been implanting these ideas and trying to destroy the country from within, essentially, which is what it's doing. They've printed so much money that this economy is lumbering along, and there's several things going on the back end that nobody really understands, but we're still going along. However, inflation is creeping in, sapping the quality of life of people, and it's extremely sad to see because salaries are not catching up with inflation. So what is it going to look like? What is the end game going to look like here? The end game is the collapse of the dollar. The only thing the United States had to keep itself going, to keep its military and its global empire going, is printing dollars and buying shit from all over the place. If it's dumped, then the United States would actually have to balance its books, which it's not going to do with millions of people in jail, crime rampant, and an economy that only works for, ultimately works for a selected few. The United States, of course, but that will be the best thing in the long term to happen to the United States because it's got to actually function on a real economy. There was a chance for this nation to have a functioning economy and be a dominant superpower for 1,000 years. And that chance was in in the previous century, before 9/11. It really had all its ducks in a row. It could have used its currency, it could have used its gold reserves to sit here and stabilize the world and keep everything in check. But greed got in the way. Instead of taking care of their country, they took care of themselves. The people in power, I'm talking about, whether they're in Congress or in the Senate, they made a new slavery class by feeding the institutions or the stocks, the equities market. If you didn't own stocks, you basically were running on a treadmill, and the people that owned stocks, were sitting there and they were going for a ride, and their wealth exploded and increased. And whoever was in the wealth pocket was in the wealth pocket. Whoever's out of it is out of it. And it's cruel because now today's generation of Americans, they're indebted. They can't buy a home. They're not going to be able to buy a home until this bubble blows over and then the whole economy, global economy shifts. We don't really quite know what the future looks like, but there is going to be recompense for all the actions that were previously taken. And as usual, I really blame all the people that bought into the lies and got duped. And I blame myself too. I used to think that Obama was the best and all this other shit and the healthcare bill is going to help the economy and all that. It's all bullshit. None of them knew what they were doing. They couldn't even build a website. None of that shit worked. And there's 1,000 easier ways to make that happen or to benefit this nation. And they don't know it. They just went to college. Some of these congressmen, they wanted to be lawyers. They didn't want to, the law business was too hard. They got into Congress to sit here and bullshit. The public is stupid. They don't want to work. Perfect combination. The U.S. has the reserve dollar, and on it goes until these two get together and flip the table over. And we're going to see how that goes, how much time we have left before the new world order takes place.